Boris Johnson's job continues to hang by a proverbial thread. The British Prime Minister and his Conservative government are now in crisis mode after 21 of his ministers resigned. The latest scandal involves Johnson appointing a lawmaker to a role involved in party welfare and discipline, even after he was briefed that the politician had been the subject of sexual misconduct complaints. Speaking in the House just a short time ago, Johnson expressed remorse but remained defiant.
It is true that a complaint was raised when he was in the Foreign Office and the matter was resolved. It's absolutely true. It's absolutely true, Mr. Speaker, that it was raised with me. I greatly regret that he continued in office.
It was the same when his ally was on the take from the lobbyists. It was the same when his Home Secretary was bullying staff. It was the same when taxpayers' money was being abused. And it was the same when he and his mates parted their way through lockdown. Anyone quitting now, after defending all that, hasn't got a shred of integrity. Mr. Speaker, isn't this the first recorded case of the sinking ships fleeing the rat?
All right, CTV's Danielle Hamamjian is in London with the latest for us. Danielle, real sense of deja vu. I feel like we're always talking about whether or not Boris Johnson is going to survive. Let's begin with that growing list of politicians saying that they no longer have confidence in the Prime Minister. 2 of his senior members have quit, senior cabinet ministers. What has sparked this mass exodus?
Yes, you're right. 21 MPs have resigned since 6 p.m. local time last night. That's almost 1 MP an hour. 2 of them senior cabinet ministers. The rest are junior MPs or aides. But it's happening every hour. I mean, during the House of Commons exchange, 2 more resignations came through. What sparked this is the case that you mentioned, the one involving Conservative MP Chris Pincher, who until last week was the Deputy Chief Whip. I will simplify the story here. He resigned last week after being accused of groping 2 men the night before at a private club. But that's not what has triggered this whole thing. What's triggered this whole thing is what exactly did Boris Johnson know about older accusations of sexual misconduct, specifically stemming from an incident in 2019. Over the past several days, Boris Johnson's story has changed. Initially, he wasn't aware of any allegations, and then he wasn't aware of any specific allegations, and then he wasn't aware of any serious specific allegations. You get where I'm going with this. There has been a back and forth, and so he's been accused of lying. And yesterday, he finally admitted that it was wrong of him to promote this man, Chris Pincher, to this position of Deputy Chief Whip, even though he did know about those 2019 accusations of sexual misconduct. He was promoted to that role in February. He apologized. He said he regretted it and it was a mistake. The apology aired, and within minutes, those 2 resignations came through, of the health minister and the chancellor as well. And since then, there has been a number of them, as we mentioned, 21 resignations. We heard from Sajid Javid in the House today, that is the former health minister now, some very strong words. One that stands out for me, he said, the past few months have been treading the tightrope between integrity and loyalty has been impossible over recent months. Of course, there's been the whole Partygate issue. He talked about having been assured by senior levels of government that the government was unaware of any parties at the height of the pandemic. And then he talked about having to go out in front of the media, deliver lines written to him by the government, having to defend the government when it turns out that what he was saying was ultimately untrue. And he said, enough is enough. And here's more what Sajid Javid had to say.
I do fear that the reset button can only work so many times. There's only so many times you can turn that machine on and off before you realize that something is fundamentally wrong. I'm deeply concerned about how the next generation will see the Conservative Party on our current course. Our reputation, after 12 years in government, depends on regaining the public's trust.
So, Danielle, Boris Johnson was in the hot seat today in Parliament, and he is vowing to fight on. What's he saying?
Well, interesting that during this PMQs today, 3 of his MPs asked him to resign in the House. Another Conservative MP asked him, imagine if this happened in the Canadian Parliament, it is unimaginable, but a Conservative MP asked him in the House whether there were any circumstances in which he would resign. The Prime Minister answered that the job of a Prime Minister in difficult circumstances, when he's been handed a colossal mandate, is to keep going, and that's what I'm going to do, he said, so he's staying put. I just want to point out that, for those who remember, just earlier or last month, there was a confidence vote, and Boris Johnson narrowly won, but 4 in 10 of his MPs do not trust him. And so technically, he's safe for another 11 months before there's another confidence vote. However, if there is enough of a revolt, if enough MPs say, no, we want another go at this, they can change the rules and force another confidence vote. And we might find out by the end of the day if those rules will change, Marcia.